Shana Tova. Sorry, I know it's so beautiful to listen to all the wonderful choir and cantor. It just puts us in that special place for Yom Kippur. But let's try that again. Shana Tova. Shana Tova. So last night, my remarks were challenging our nature of our community. Today, it's also something I'm going to present is also challenging, but in a very different way. And I'd like to dedicate my remarks today to the memory of Jeffrey Lyons, who was killed in a traffic accident a month ago. May his memory always be for a blessing. I'd like to begin with a call. I have my old cell phone. It's a great kid's toy. Not a call from God or call from the shofar, but a simple call on the phone. This is the call that we dread, a call in the middle of the day or in the middle of the night, a call that announces something catastrophic, a call that changes everything. This is the call that I have been trained to receive, but that I too dread receiving. When it comes in, nothing else matters except that voice on the other end and what, if anything, can be done to repair the damage. Today, as hard as it is, I will take you through that call. I must take you through that call so that you will know the steps that should happen beforehand to make things easier, so that you will know the conversations that we have to have with one another, so that we are clear about what we need and what our loved ones need in a moment of crisis. So now for the call. Ring. The number on your phone could be any number in the world. It could be your best friend, a family member, or be unlisted. There will be a little preparation when it arrives. Hello, you tell the other person, and they say, there's been an accident. I need you to come right away. First time I got one of these calls, I actually had a phone like this. It was the first time I really was in this building in a meaningful way. On the other line, it had been Renee Gattosi, our bookkeeper, and she had told me about an accident, not of a car, but of a plane. 8.5 years ago. It's hard to believe. I rushed over to this building, then known as Temple Beth Am. There were already others here. I said hello to Rick Ellis, and then I actually met Joanne for the very first time. We were all there trying to make sense of the news that our beloved cantor Susan Whaley was gone. There was no protocol, so we scrambled to address the needs of the many community members filtering into the building in tears and into shock. No one could believe what had happened. Well, I did not know at the time, at the end of the hallway was Susan's office, where Arlene's office is now, exactly as she had left it prior to her vacation. There were piles of books, sheets with musical notations, unfinished documents on the computer. She left without having had a chance to straighten out anything. She left without having had a chance to say goodbye. But because she was a cantor, we were lucky. We had her beautiful voice on a CD. We had many different teachings of hers in print. And we had Yom Kippur, a time and a place on the calendar every year where she had made amends, a time and a place where she, in some way, had told us goodbye. The previous high holidays, actually, she had lost her voice. But that didn't matter because her soul still sang. Her smile still filled the sanctuary. And Susan, the human being, did what all of us are supposed to do on the Shabbat of all Shabbats. She made peace with her life. There is a reason why we wear white on Yom Kippur. It is an allusion to the death shroud. And the fast and feeling of deprivation that comes with it, a reminder of our lack of control over our lives. all of it, the haunting melodies in the liturgy, the Yizkor memorial service, even the final shofar blast, put us in the mindset of those final hours, not of the holiday, but of our lives. But Yom Kippur is far from morbid. It is, in fact, the most joyous of all of our Jewish holidays. For if we make peace with where we are in our lives, if we have repaired our relationship with others, if we have done true cheshbon hanefesh, an accounting of our souls, we are then free to enjoy life without bounds. We are free to truly live. Unlike Susan, most of us will not die suddenly. For most of us, it will be a culmination of illness and surgeries, a gradual decrease in health, and not one catastrophic event. But this scenario is far from perfect. Indeed, as Dr. Angelo E. Valendes writes in his book, The Conversation, A Revolutionary Plan for the End of Life, when asked when and how they want to spend their last few months, nearly 80% of Americans respond that they want to be at home with their family and friends, free from the institutional grip of hospitals and nursing homes in relative comfort. However, only 24% of Americans older than 65 die at home. 63% die in hospitals or nursing homes, sometimes tethered to machines and often in pain. Valendes argues this need not be the case. We as future patients or caretakers need to better understand what we want and work to extend not the quantity, but the quality of our days. Dr. Atul Gawande, in his recent book, Being Mortal, which I highly recommend, also writes, in the end, people don't view their life as merely the average of all its moments, which after all is mostly nothing much plus sleep. For human beings, life is meaningful because it is a story that has a sense of a whole, and its arc is determined by the significant moments, the ones where something happens. Measurements of people's minute-by-minute levels of pleasure and pain miss this fundamental aspect of human existence. A seemingly happy life may be empty. A seemingly difficult life may be devoted to a great cause. We have purposes larger than ourselves. Ultimately, he writes, people want to share memories, pass on wisdoms and keepsakes, settle relationships, establish their legacies, make peace with God, and ensure that those who are left behind will be okay. They want to end their stories on their own terms. How do we do this? We begin by answering the following questions that were included in Valendes' book and that you have now in sheets of paper. The white sheet, not the manila. You'll need that later on. How do we value quantity versus quality of life? How important is it to you to live as long as possible, even if it means that you would experience pain and suffering? If you had to choose between the length of life and the quality of life, which would be more important to you? Is there a special occasion coming up that you would do anything to make sure you are present for? Would you want to avoid pain at all costs, even if you might not be able to interact with others? How important is it for you to be at home when you die? I also included on those sheets a link to the Conversation Project, which is all about making these questions known. Record your answers to these questions. Maybe even make a video. Make sure your loved ones have access to the answers. This will be a gift you give them if anything happens. It will also be a gift you give yourself. Ashira and I were just talking. We're going to take this home, and we're going to have this conversation. I know it's hard, and I want you to know that I am here to help. I've actually started initiating these conversations as I go to meet with people. I've also included the website I already mentioned. Here's an example of a letter that was presented by a mother to her children to be used in the event something would happen to her. Don't panic. It's okay. If you're faced with a decision you're not ready for, it's okay. I'll try to let you know what I would want for various circumstances. But if you come to something we haven't anticipated, it's okay. You don't need to worry that you've caused my death. You haven't. I will die because of my illness or my body failing or whatever. You don't need to feel responsible. If you're faced with a snap decision, don't panic. Choose comfort. Choose less intervention. Choose to be together. Choose to be together at my side, holding my hand, singing, laughing, loving, deliberating, and carrying on. I will keep on watching you and being proud of you. The traditional Torah reading on Yom Kippur comes from a portion actually called Acharei Mot, after the death. It refers to the horrific death of Aaron's eldest sons, Nadav and Abihu. On an ordinary day, while performing a basic sacrifice, things went terribly wrong. The fire that was meant to consume the sacrifice raged outwardly and killed the two young men instantaneously and horrifically. This is the context of the Yom Kippur sacrifice, the context of our service, where two identical goats are brought to the high priest, one to be sacrificed and one to be sent off to a mysterious place called Azazel. In this brutal ritual, Aaron is essentially reliving his children's deaths, taking his anger and grief out on the goats. Perhaps it is his way of making peace with the situation. Perhaps it is his way of saying goodbye. Yom Kippur is Aaron's way of saying to all of us, treasure life. You never know when it will be taken from you. I'm reminded of a song that Cantor Whaley used to sing in our community, likely on Yom Kippur itself. It's by one of her dear friends from the Renewal Movement, Rabbi Yitz Husbands Hankins. It's based on Psalm 90. The words are as follows: Limnot Yameh Kain Hodah, V'navi Levav Chochmah. Teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Teach us to treasure each day. Today I ask that you think about what's most important in your life. Who is most important in your life? This is how we will learn to treasure each day. Beyond the questions I already offered, this is the guide to knowing what we want in those final moments. Remember to always tell your loved ones that you love them. Make sure that they know what you value most in this world. And that no matter what happens in the future, you trust that they will make the right decision and that it will be okay. On Thursday night, February 12, 2009, we lost our beloved cantor, Susan Whaley. For some of us, the image of the Flight 3407 barreling down towards the house in Clarence and the painful aftermath is all that we can picture about that night. I tend to picture something different. I see Susan's soul in those final moments, singing, supporting her fellow passengers and crew members, feeling at peace with her life. To you and to her, I offer one of my favorite poems about death and dying by Merritt Malloy. We often read this on funerals. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the streets beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. Gemar Chatima Tova, a good sealing and an easy and meaningful fast.